We're all good? If you are somebody who is interested in being more effective with your projects and more influential with your colleagues in the workplace, in this episode of Best Practice TV and the Kobe Summit audio experience, we're going to be talking about how you can more effectively roll out your change management programs, how you can more effectively influence your colleagues in the workplace, how you can build mutual trust, mutual respect, and get more out of your organization and more out of your teams. Hey there, I'm Kobe Summit. I'm the CEO here at Best Practice. We've got our interns with us again here in the studio today. We've got Luke helping, so thanks to Luke. And as always, it's really good for me. I've got a big dashboard up behind the cameras here this morning. So let me know where you are watching from. David, I've got your questions. So we've had a few questions come in overnight for things that you guys want me to cover. So I apologize for looking at my iPhone, but I'm going to be looking at what we've got there in terms of questions. So I've got a question here from David, so I'll cover that in terms of how I can help you with your change management process. So let me know where you are watching from. So use those comments if you're watching live on YouTube, or if you are watching live on LinkedIn, or if you come back later on, if you are seeing this after the recording, I will still respond to your comments. I sat last night and went through all of the comments from last week's webinar. So please use that comment section there. So if there's specific things you want me to talk about, please hit me with those questions. If you want to ask me a private question, then please go ahead and send me a direct message or private message on LinkedIn, or alternatively Instagram. I'll keep half an eye on Instagram as well, and my Instagram messages through today. So morning, Stan. Always good to have you on board this morning. Hopefully I can help you be a better leader and give you some tips and insights today in terms of how you can be a better leader and have more influence in your organization. One of the things that we focus on here at Best Practice is our why, what we're passionate about, what we focus on. And in the great wise words of Simon Sinek, I've got his book here this morning, Start With Why. It's been a global bestseller. I've recently been purchasing a whole bunch of secondhand versions of this because I'm seeing some pretty good quality books come up on eBay. I've been getting them for about $5 on eBay. I'd highly recommend you guys try and find secondhand any of the books I recommend if you don't want to spend the $30, the average of $30 for the brand new ones. But make sure, on the topic today in terms of what we're talking about in terms of internal influence, the gold nugget in this book is on the cover. It's Start With Why. So I'm going to start with our why today and just give you an example of how this is all going to stitch itself together. Here at Best Practice, we're really passionate about having companies and helping companies to be fun places to work, great places to buy from, and amazing companies to invest in. So the benefits of working with us is we want to bring you that. That's what we're passionate about. We're passionate about helping your organization to be a fun, enjoyable place for people to work. The people that come to work with you or participate in your organization, or you even, in terms of going to organizations, that they have a great customer experience. I'm really excited, and I get my kicks out of hearing stories about the customer experience that your customers have, because I can do some bragging and I can claim some of the credit for the customer experience that your customers have. Because if I can help you to be a better organization, then I've got bragging rights that I was part of that journey. And then obviously great companies to invest in. And that's for your shareholders and your key stakeholders that helped found the organization and grow the organization that are part of that process. So the rest of my presentation is going to make sense, because that's what I'm here to do, is have fun figuring out the how and the what that we're going to do in terms of Simon Sinek's golden circles and what he talks about in his golden pyramid in his book there, Start With Why. So let me put that up there so you guys can have a look at it. Hopefully that's still in the camera shot there for you guys. So Start With Why by Simon Sinek. What I want you guys to be thinking about is like tip number one, or insight number one, is once people can understand your why, if you like, if you start the conversation with your why, then the rest of what you start talking about, if you're in a meeting or if you're running a project or in regular touch points with key people in your organization, starting with why is going to create a really good opportunity for you to carry the rest of your messages. The rest of your messages will fall into place behind your why. Okay, so moving on and starting to think about the rest of this presentation, my goal today, the measurable outcome in thinking about what success looks like, my goal for you is that people feel more trusting in your organization, specifically trust you more, that they feel more empowered and more motivated in your organization to help you with the projects or help you solve the problems or help you achieve the goals. So my goal today with this presentation is to give you some tips and insights to help you be more effective in your organization. Please go ahead if you guys here in the studio, if you've got questions as we go. So are we seeing where people are watching from? Are we getting any comments? So anyone who's watching on LinkedIn, or if you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and let me know where in the world you're watching from. So you've got, you people that have come on this morning, or everyone that's come on this morning, you're here to learn more about your organization. You're like-minded. So everyone that's watching live, it's really interesting to see where this community is globally. It's really exciting. And if you are watching after the recording, please go ahead and make those comments or ask your questions, and I'll answer those even after the event. Okay, so moving on, if we start talking about the goal, we've talked about my goal for this presentation. I want you to share your goals, your goal or your objective for the conversation. So as you're starting to become a more effective influencer in your organization, or even outside of your organization, we need to think about how we can influence people, and we need to think about how we can get what we want, and obviously what they can get what they want. So Greg Jewson, our Chief Operating Officer here at Best Practice, he has a little acronym he uses. He calls it WIFM. And it's what's the WIFM? WIFM is what's in it for me. So when we're talking to people in the organization, we really need to be using empathy, and we need to be focusing on empathy, and we need to be thinking about what's in it for them. Because you know what's in it for you, you're trying to achieve an objective or a goal, but in terms of having these conversations, we really need to think about, well, what's in it for them? And I've already done that. I've talked about the goals. My goal this morning, my sole purpose this morning, is to be giving you tips and insights to help you be a better influencer in your organization, to have more trust in the organization. It's part of my why. My why is to help your organization be a fun and great place, empowering place to work at. My objective is not to create friction in your organization, to create negative culture in your organization, to create negativity, to have your organization go backwards. My goal is to help your organization grow. And so when you get what's in it for you, like if you implement some of the suggestions that I have and the recommendations that I have in this presentation this morning, you're going to be able to go right ahead and see an uplift in your organization. So a question that I often ask is, in thinking about the next 3 months, you've heard me say this before, in thinking about the next 3 months, what does success look like? That's a question that you can use. You can use that with your colleagues. You can reframe it. You can change the time frame. And you can say to someone, in terms of the output of this process, in terms of the output of this project, in terms of the output of what we're doing here, what does success look like for you? And then you can start to tap into the what's in it for me, the WIFM, their WIFM. What do you want to get out of this process? And they might say, I just want to turn up for work and I just want to get paid and I want to go home. It is important to understand that 95% of people who are employees turn up to work out of a sense of obligation. It's our job as managers and leaders and influencers in the organization to try as best we can to give those people meaningful work to do, and then try and help them on their journey. Now, if they're just not enjoying it and it is just a sense of obligation, then we've got to start to think about, well, how can we help them be happier? How can we use some empathy to help them? So if you come at the situation from a position of love and you use empathy, then you're going to get much more of a desirable outcome, if you like, than if you come at it with, frustration and aggression and determination and tenacity. Tenacity and determination are very important, but they've got to be lined up behind love and empathy. So in terms of empathizing with someone, what does that look like? If you're a manager or a leader and you're trying to get better results out of somebody, you can come into the situation and you can say, look, you're not achieving your results and you're not doing what I need you to do. And if you don't do what I need you to do, well, look, I don't know what's going to happen. If you think about that person that you've just spoken to, that's going to generate fear. Fear is not a motivator. Humans are conditioned to move away from fear. That's why we have that saying that says fight or flight. They're either going to fight with you or they're going to have a flight issue. So what we want to start to think about is actually how can we get someone to lean into the situation? So the right way to approach that situation with empathy would be, I've noticed that your results are down. I've noticed that we're not achieving the goals that we set for ourselves or we agreed. What's happening in your life? What can I help with? And that's coming at it with a position of empathy and a position of love in terms of caring. And so when you come at that situation, you're like, hey, what are the goals that you want to achieve? What does success look like for you? We have a core question that we ask here at Best Practice, and I don't have the book with me at the moment. Let me just quickly check. Can't see it. We've talked about it recently in previous webinars and live streams, is the coaching habit. In the coaching habit, the very first question that they talk about asking is, what's on your mind? So what the team will do here at Best Practice is, we'll be working, we'll be having a one-on-one. I'm helping people to move towards their goals. Then in the catch-ups that I have with my direct reports and my managers, I'll be walking up to them or sitting down with them, turning my phone so it's face down, not being distracted, focusing on them, making eye contact and saying, what's on your mind? Letting them talk. My next question is, and what else? My next question is, and what else? Then my fourth question is, and out of all of that, what's a priority for you right now? And what that does is that actually lets them focus on their priorities. Yes, of course, we want to come back to the goals you've got, the change management requirements that you've got. And I hope this is starting to answer your question, David, that you sent through overnight, is that to run a change management process, to run an implementation, to influence the organization towards its goals, if you start with why and you talk about the goals and there's some agreement, then you can be asking people, hey, what's on your mind? What are the challenges that you've got as we work towards these goals? Equally, if you are, if your colleagues, you're not, manager and employee, if you like, if your colleagues, or if you're, say you guys are doing group work at uni, for example, like Kiana, if she's doing group work at uni, she's here in the studio, that you guys can start, you're only going to be able to exert your leadership to a certain perspective, because it's going to be more about a consensus approach. Yes, someone might be the group leader or the captain, but it's still going to be a consensus approach. You've still got to use, the 6 laws of influence. You've got things like authority. Yes, I can walk around here and I could exert my power as the CEO and I can tell people what to do. But if I'm only going to be able to be successful for so long if I walk around telling people what to do, because they don't want to do it, or there's a blockage or a challenge, they're just going to walk out and my team's going to collapse. What I have to do is I need to focus on my 2 key rules using empathy and love, and I need to be helping people achieve their goals. So there's another book which would be my next recommendation. I said I would talk about it today. This book here, High Output Management. This guy, Andrew Grove, he ran Intel as an organization for almost 20 years. He took time out to write this book called High Output Management, and it's absolutely fantastic. The foreword in this particular book is by Ben Horowitz. Let me just quickly check that. Who wrote The Hard Thing About Hard Things? Let me just confirm that I've got that exactly right for you guys. The foreword is here. If I can get through to it. Yes, Ben Horowitz. So the gentleman who wrote The Hard Thing About Hard Things, he wrote the foreword, which is when I was reading his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, he recommended High Output Management. Another great book on this specific topic. Yesterday, we talked lots about sales and selling and influence, and you can use sales and selling, and I'm going to get to that in a second, in terms of how you can use this to influence in your organization. What Andrew Grove has documented in this book is that as a manager in an organization, or as an aspiring leader in an organization, you've only got one job. Your job is to motivate and train. That's it. You spend your day, if you audit your day, you spend your day collecting information and then making decisions. Those are the 2 tasks you're doing, but your outputs are a measure of motivation. So if you are a manager, if you are a leader, if you are working in change management, if you are somebody who's got a job to be an internal influencer in your organization, your measure of success is how well motivated are people in your organization and how well trained are those people. Because they're the people at the coalface, they're the people doing the tasks. Yes, of course, you're going to have different tasks you need to do. How motivated are you? How well trained are you? Is a measure of the success of your manager. So if you're not the top manager, like myself as a top manager in the organization, if you're not the top manager, how motivated and trained are you? And that is the 360-degree feedback you can give to your boss. Is you could go back to them and could say, hey, could you please spend more time motivating me? And could you please spend more time training me so I can be more effective and achieving my goals will become easier. When people are motivated and when they are well trained, achieving the organizational goals becomes a lot easier. And so for those of you that are running change management processes and those of you that are looking at internal influence, that's a really easy measure of success. Okay, for the remainder of our live stream, I'm just looking at the time. I try to wrap up our second live stream of the week a little bit faster than a whole hour. I want to talk about sales and selling. One of the things that I have found, in watching you guys with your projects and watching you guys try to internally influence, and even myself, one of the things I found trying to influence people over time, specifically if I use the case study of my brother. He's a CEO as well, running his organization. We jointly run, we bounce off each other all day. He's in an office over there, I'm in an office over here. Our businesses are side by side. if I go into my brother's office and he tells me about a problem and I start firing off suggestions and solutions, he cuts me down. So if you're somebody who tries to make suggestions in your organization, if you're somebody who tries to offer solutions and those solutions keep getting rejected by the people you're trying to help, then my recommendation to you is start to reframe how you come at these challenges. If you have a situation like when I'm talking with my brother, I'll offer a bunch of solutions. He'll be sitting there going, won't work, doesn't work. I get these long-winded explanations about, why the problem's not going to get solved. So then I sit there and I get really frustrated because I'm like, all I'm trying to do is help. I don't get paid for it. It's just me helping my brother. So what I've started to come to realize is that actually, if I can use a coaching technique and if I can use a leadership and a change management technique, then I can actually see him start to think about the solutions to the problems because he's got all the inputs. So what I'll do is I'll start with why. We start with why. The flow chart is start with why. What are we trying to achieve? What are we passionate about? What's the goal here? And then we can start saying, once we've got that goal defined, we can say, okay, well, how are we going to approach it? If you were me, what would you do? Is a really great question. So instead of offering a solution, you could say, well, if you were me, what would you do? That's a really great way to reframe it. And so, the solution, one of my sayings, haven't said it for a while actually, Luke, the solution lies in the mind with the problem. The solution lies in the mind with the problem. So when I go to see my brother, he talks about his problem, he puts it in my mind, I try to solve it. So we can actually use someone else's brain to solve a problem. We can actually delegate, and we can use all those different computers, and brains are computers. We can use those different computers in the organization, and that is how we become a good, effective manager. The output of a manager that is talked about here by Andrew Grove in his book, High Output Management. The output is the ability of a manager to influence his team and the teams around that team. And that is mastering the art of influence, is motivation and training, and then training those people and to have their mindset corrected and their mindset working with the organization, and then using it to make decisions and solve problems. So if we go with my saying, which is the solution lies in the mind with the problem, I put the problem back in my brother's mind by saying, well, if you were me, what would you do? And can you see how that actually parks the problem across into his head? Or if I might do that with Luke. And so yesterday with Luke's challenged. We're trying to get him into a college course, small little rejection yesterday, not really the walk in the front door that we were hoping for. And I said to Luke, get on the phone and talk to them as if you were me, which is not bully them, but be tough and say, I'm very clear on the outcome. My intention is to go to your university next year and to study marketing and media. So let's make that happen. How do we work together as a team to get that happening? That's my goal. Their goal is to get students through their college. Your goal is to go to the college as a student. How do we work together as a team to achieve that outcome? Now, they might reject that, but you started with why. It's my intention to come to your college as a student next year and study marketing and media. It's your objective to enroll students. How do I fit your criteria so I can get enrolled? Does that make sense? And so what I said to Luke yesterday, I said, well, just pretend you're me, get on the phone, and what would I do? And so he can sort of contextualize that. He's seen me operate. He's seen how I get on the phone. He's seen how I'm tenacious. He's seen how I push things through. He's seen my pace. So I'm using that to influence him, and I'm using that to help him achieve his goal. So that's something that you can start to consider is in terms of being a better influencer in your organization. If you do get nervous, if you're not an outgoing, tenacious, verbose person like I am, if you like, who's happy to get in front of a camera. I think that camera just turned off. Not still running, the big camera. It's all good, still running. Okay, excellent. So what we can start to think about is if I'm not my best self, it's all good, still working. Yeah, it's great. All right, okay. If I'm all good and if I'm not good and I'm not my best self, then I can picture myself being, say, someone like James Bond, for example. So if it's really challenged, if there's a heap of friction, if you're in a situation where you're not really influencing, this is about correcting your mindset. You can start to actually pretend, or you can think about a character that you could be so you don't get emotional, you don't get frustrated. Because remember, we need to come back to our why. We need to come back to our goals. We need to make sure we've got agreement, make sure we've had that conversation about what the goal is. And so for you, David, with your question that you emailed overnight, you can start to ask the question. You can say, well, what's the goal of all of the teams? Because we are conflicting with each other. And I appreciate that you are having challenges getting everybody to come together on your team to help you with your change management. Chatting to another mate of mine yesterday morning about his organization. He's been in his organization for a long period of time. And, you know, he's a quiet achiever. He's a quiet influencer. He takes people offline. He'll take them out for a coffee, or he'll take them offline. He doesn't influence people in big groups. He doesn't stand in front of a big group and say, this is what I want to do. He does it one-on-one. He does it quietly. And he just basically sells people on the concept that, hey, we've got a problem. And he talks to people about the problem, and he sees what their version of the solution is. And I think that's probably my summary, if you like, in terms of the points that we're making today, is I want you guys to start to think about, well, there's always 1,000 different ways to solve a problem. Try not to be a control freak. Try to think about, well, let's see if someone can solve the problem themselves. And that's one of the final points I want to make today about experience. When we talk about people being recruited, and we talk about going for jobs, and we talk about, hiring people, it's like we want people with experience. Well, experience is the sum of the successes you've had, but also the mistakes you've made. And so what we have to do is we have to create safe environments for people. And one of the things we do here at Best Practice is we celebrate when things go wrong. Why do we do that? When someone comes to me and says, I broke the company or something just happened, I'm like, all right, awesome. We just worked out another way that doesn't work. So we'll know not to do that in the future. We can avoid that little pothole in the future. So it comes back to having a culture of love and fun, because we want to create an organization that is fun to deal with. And then we basically want to bring in those opportunities for people to trial and experiment and feel safe, because we are focused on that goal. What's the goal? The goal is to go forward. We've got company goals all defined. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, you might have made a mistake, but all we were trying to do was achieve the goal. And with the context that you had, you just, you didn't quite hit the goal, or you didn't quite make we made a mistake, we had an issue. It comes back to my job. I've got to own that. If someone makes a mistake, it's my fault. It's not their fault, because my job is to motivate and train people. And if someone makes a mistake, my training's been ineffective. And that's probably the very last thing that I want to say as a manager is you need to own your shit. You need to own everything, and you need to take 100% responsibility for the situation, because the situation won't go how you wanted it to go because you didn't train your people properly, or you didn't take action on something you needed to take action on, or your mindset was incorrect. It's that simple as a manager. So in terms of actually how you can then influence people, we want to do more training, more motivation, and we want to come at this from a love and an empathy perspective. Okay, so let me just quickly look behind you. Oh, Saeed joining us from Adelaide this morning. I know we've got someone watching up there in Ecuador, in Guayaquil, I think. David, you're in Ecuador, and obviously a couple of people there in Sydney. So everybody who's watching today, thanks for joining. So anyone who's watching live on YouTube, or if you're watching live on LinkedIn, let me know where you are watching from. Even if you're watching after the recording, we had about 200 people yesterday join after the recording. So let me know where you are watching from. I'm always happy to take questions. How about you guys? Anything jump to mind today out of this, like group work or going into your careers at all? Any questions? What about you, Kiana? You've always got one? No? Okay. Everyone's pretty happy. Okay, if you have got questions, please ask. Like, that's what this is here for. So I want to talk about 2 more books. If you are somebody who wants a system to follow, if you're somebody in your organization and you want a system to follow, there's 2 great books. I've been talking the last couple of weeks about the book Scaling Up. I'll get that question. No, we're all good. So can you just scroll down on those comments on LinkedIn for me and just see if there's another comment, or is that's the most active? Okay. If you are somebody who wants a system to follow, we talked about the Scaling Up book by Vern Harnish. Hey there, yes, you're watching on LinkedIn. So we've talked about the book by Vern Harnish, which is Scaling Up, which is a great system to follow. There's this other great book, Traction, which is the entrepreneurial operating system. From a change management perspective, this has got some really great tools in it for running effective meetings that help you with change management. It talks about getting comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's a mindset thing too as a change manager, influencer in your organization. If you come into a conversation with love and empathy, then it's easier to have an uncomfortable conversation with somebody. You've got to talk to them about something that's an uncomfortable topic. They're not performing, they're not paying attention to something. If you can come in with empathy, then you're going to get a much better result. So this is a great book to read. If you're working in an organization where there's a bit of a crazy entrepreneur that runs it, I highly recommend getting this book and implementing some of the systems in this particular book. Got some great principles, things like let's address the elephant in the room. If there is an elephant in the room, you can have a bit of fun with it. And you can say, hey, I think there's an elephant in the room. Can we talk about that? Because it's something that's concerning me and it's on my mind. I just want to share what's on my mind. There's a principle that the leader speaks last. Simon Sinek talks about it in Leaders Eat Last, his book after this book. It talks about leaders speaking last. If you are a leader, if you're somebody with authority in an organization, in all of our meetings, I try to speak last because I don't want to bias the conversation. I want to know what's on people's minds. I want to know what they're thinking in terms of solving a problem. And I want to know if they know the problem actually exists. And so for a lot of you who are working in change management roles and in internal influence roles, in organizations with people around you, sometimes people don't even know the problem exists. And you're trying to solve a problem that is not a pain point for them. The other book that I want to quickly talk about, which is a bit more about mindset and focus for you guys, is this Focal Point by Brian Tracy. This has been an excellent book with our team here at Best Practice in helping some of our managers. We've got a bunch of these. Our managers are working through these at the moment. There are piles of books building up with people because I've been buying extra copies. But for somebody who if you want to be more effective in what you're doing at work, then I can highly recommend this book, Focal Point. There's obviously the other books I talked about yesterday. High Performance Habits was on our Instagram yesterday from Brendan Bouchard. That's an excellent book as well. But Focal Point, so that when you are trying to solve a problem or you are trying to get traction forward on your goals, then this book is highly recommended. Let me finish off with sales and selling, because I did want to do a theme on sales and selling in these sessions this particular week. And I just want to break down the sales and selling process and how that relates to building trust in your organization and being effective in achieving your goals. When we talk about sales and selling, you guys will be selling an idea or selling a principle or selling a goal and trying to get people to rally around that. I want you to understand that all sales, even influencing, has three parts. At the end of the day, the goal is to get agreement and then actually see action, get action and get people working towards that goal and then ultimately achieve that goal. So you need people to do tasks to help you achieve that goal. It's very important at the front end to be doing massive information gathering. You want to be understanding from asking people what's on their mind, what the other challenges might be, what are they working on, what are the priorities, do they have spare capacity, do they have time, are they motivated, are they trained, can they do it? When we talk about capacity, have they got time? When we talk about capacity, have they got the skills? When you talk about capacity, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they want to be part of that process? It's really important to that massive information gathering so that you can understand the whole problem and you can also understand the people that you need involved. Then we do the presentation, because it's unethical of you to jump straight in and say, you've got it. I want you to do this, this, and this if you haven't given people any context. So doing massive information gathering and understanding the whole situation before you go into solution mode. Don't just show up and throw up. And those are those situations. If you come out of a situation where you're really frustrated that you can't get people to help you, spend some more time using empathy and love with those people around you to understand what their concerns are, what they're challenged by. Then doing your presentation on the goals. I think there's a couple of comments that have just popped up on the feed there. So I want you to be thinking about that and thinking about when you then make your presentation, you can say, just so I understand everything that's going on, I'm going to ask you lots of questions and then, all right, I think I understand the situation. This is how I think we could approach the problem. These are the solutions that we're going to implement. And that's part of that change management process. There's a great piece of work by Robert Cialdini on the 6 laws of influence. I won't go into those in this particular presentation, but one of the laws of influence is authority. Like a police officer or a soldier or someone holding a gun, that's authority. And so authority in organizations only works to a point, because you will get, if that authority is a form of tyranny, then you're going to get dissent in the people and resentment in the people around you, and energetically it's not going to be right. So to have good culture in an organization, you want to focus on the 6 laws of influence and things like likability and social proof. You want to focus on confidence. You want to focus on knowledge. You want to focus on commitment, not just authority. So not just using your position title and your ability to hire or fire somebody in the organization, because that will generate fear. So I focus here at Best Practice on likability and social proof. I focus on my results. I show people my results and what I can achieve. And then people can then come along and say, actually, this guy knows what he's doing. He's got the results. He's already delivered the results. I'm going to listen to what he's got to say, and I'm going to do what he encourages me to do because he cares about my results. And then I focus on likability in terms of being a likable person. In terms of focusing on likability, and as part of my sales process, I'm going to be more interested in what someone's got to say than what I've got to say, because the more that someone, if you've ever found, if you think about people that you really like, there's people that you really like. Think about whether they do all the talking or whether you do all the talking, or whether they're genuinely interested in you. And a measure of likability usually has a coefficient of a measure of interest. And when somebody's interested in you and they care about you and they show empathy and they listen to you, it's likely that they're more likable. So you can think about those laws of influence, those 6 laws of influence. So what we're doing is we're doing massive information gathering, same as selling. This is exactly the same as sales, because we want to pitch our idea. We want to get people to work on our idea, and our idea wants to, hit its goal or solve the problem. Massive information gathering, then do the presentation. So don't show up and throw up and say, this is what we're going to do. Do the massive information gathering, then do your presentation, then ask for objections. Why do you guys think this won't work? And then you can respond to those objections. Is this something that we're going to be able to work together on? Are you happy to work on this with me? Are you excited to work on this with me? If the answer to that question is no, then you can start dealing with those objections. It's exactly the same. So what I am finding from a lot of you guys with your questions, when you're sending questions into me about this, laws of influence and influencing in the workplace, I'm hearing the objections that people are putting up to you. Like, you're not achieving your goal because people won't listen, or they can't get on the same page, or there's friction in the organization, or the culture's not right. Those are objections. And so in sales, we have to loop back on the objection. When we get an objection, it means that we didn't communicate properly. We didn't train the person properly. We didn't give them all the information. We didn't have them clearly understand the problem that we have. So it's really important in the massive information gathering and in the pitch is to actually raise the level of pain around the problem. If someone in your organization is not feeling any pain from a problem you're going to solve, then they're not going to help you. They're going to be less motivated to help you. They're going to be less motivated to reach for the aspirin or the painkiller for their headache. So it's, to a certain extent, there is a law of influence that is about, if something is a headache for you and it's a goal and it's something that you've got to achieve, you want to also have that person feel a headache as well if it's a pain point. So in sales, we talk about elevating the level of pain so that people will actually then reach for the solution. And even though the solution is good for them, it's just a technique in sales to have people understand the problem. Kiana's got a question. Go ahead.
Which law of influence do you feel like you need to improve most on?
Which law of influence do I think I need to improve most on? I think I don't improve on them. There's certainly social proof. I know what I'm talking about. I know the information works, and I know that in some instances people need to see more numbers. So for what I want to do, I want to inspire improvement in 100 million companies. We're working with, we're probably inspiring improvement in a couple of thousand companies at the moment. I need more numbers around what we're doing to have more social proof. So, okay, so, things like, how many followers do you have on LinkedIn? 15,000, or almost 16,000 followers on LinkedIn. For me, that's not quite enough to move efficiently through to, okay, this guy's got a lot of followers, they're listening to what he's saying, they're engaging with his content, he must know what he's talking about, if that makes sense. So that's how social proof works. So I can show up on Instagram. If you look at my Instagram page, no one's following it, if that makes sense. A lot of people follow me on LinkedIn. So from an Instagram perspective, I'm not an authority. There's no social proof. So because there's no social proof, he's not an authority, if that makes sense. Let me get to a couple of these questions. When I talk to some managers, I get the feeling they are important, but when I talk to leaders, I feel like I'm important. That's exactly right, Andrew. You're absolutely spot on there. And that is, more often than not, I know that's a mindset with those managers. They might be protecting their turf or protecting their level, but that's exactly right. Are we managing performance or are we leading a team? And good leaders, lead by example, for example. They also talk about, that they are coming at the position with love and empathy. And that would be the difference. Is a manager is like, I'm protecting my turf, this is what I need to do. They're not really a great leader. You'd like some tips on influencing in a non-management role, i.e. influencing managers and CEOs. John, no problems. I can help with that. Sorry, Jody. I apologize, Jody. I can see you there on LinkedIn. So thank you for the question. So guys, if you are watching live and you've got questions, hit the comments there. Happy to help. So Jody, with your question, in terms of actually helping you, I like this principle of what's on your mind. So if someone comes to me and comes to my office, although I don't have an office now, we've just got the studio. If someone comes up to me, sort of, leans on the side of the door of my office, metaphorically speaking, and says, "Hey, what's on your mind? What's a priority for you? What would you like me to focus on?" You start building rapport and build a friendship. And what Kelly John Woods, or Woodsy as we call him here in our office, he's got a saying that's ride with management, always ride with management, build a click with management, socialize with management, become a friend with management, become a friend with the CEO, and it's take a genuine interest. In sales and selling, and I talked about this yesterday, we talked about sales and selling yesterday, you are selling, right? So in terms of influencing management and influencing CEOs, it's learning to be a good salesperson. A good salesperson knows the CEO's birthday, knows all the managers' birthdays, knows the children's birthdays, knows what people like, knows what their love language is. So if you can think about the 5 love languages, I've talked about that with Gary Chapman, that's what we use in here in Best Practice. What's the CEO's love language? Is it compliments? How often do the team members actually thank the CEO for the opportunity? Hey, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work here. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be led by you. I'm really grateful for an opportunity to get some mentoring for you. It doesn't happen. I try to make sure I thank everybody on their way out the door here from Best Practice. Thank you for today. Thank you for what you've been doing. But actually, that doesn't happen as often as it should, which is empathy towards towards your friends in the workplace. So I think, taking a genuine interest in people's lives, how did their son go at soccer on the weekend, or football, or how was their holiday, or what's happening, taking a genuine interest. And then the next level of empathy is saying, and what's on your mind? What's concerning you? What are the challenges you've got right now? How would you like me to help with that? And then they can show that you can show that you're genuinely interested in the WIFM. What's in it for me? It's what's in it for them. So starting to think about what's in it for them. And if you can focus that and you can say, hey, I've got some spare capacity. I'm trying to be really focused on what I'm doing. I just want to check in and check that I'm doing everything you need me to do to make your job easier. And if you can do that, it's over time, then you're going to then be able to circle back and say, hey, I just want to get your thoughts on a project I'm working on. I just want to get your thoughts on a challenge I'm having. How could we approach that? And that is back to that principle I talked about earlier in this presentation, which is the solution lies in the mind with the problem. So predicated on building that rapport, taking a genuine interest in people from a love and empathetic perspective. What are your challenges? What are the issues you're having? Then you can circle back. You can use the love language. So we got 5 love languages: gifts, quality time, acts of service, touch, and words of affirmation. So compliments, quality time is someone learning about them. Words of affirmation, what do we have? Touch, shaking hand, pat on the back, those sorts of things, not appropriate in all workplaces, but we're a hugging workplace here at Best Practice, or a handshaking workplace here at Best Practice, and starting to think about those 5 love languages. And if you can speak all of the 5 love languages and you can ask people what their love language is and speak their love language to them, they will feel more gratitude from you. They will be more likely to work with you on the things that you need help with. Jody, I hope that helps. That's certainly how we approach it here at Best Practice, and we've got a great, efficient team. We've got a great culture, and we've got people that are willing to get in and help each other. It doesn't mean that we don't have friction. We certainly have friction. We had a week of friction 2 weeks ago. We've got over that now, but people weren't speaking each other's love languages. People weren't using empathy. And one of my mentors has said to me, he said, if you're having trouble in your organization, fire the person that's the opposite to you take the nicest person in the organization and you write a list in order of success. Who's the nicest to the worst person in the organization, and fire the worst person, because that's going to correct the culture. But you really just want to be a nice person, with the goal of it being a fun place to work. If there's a toxic person in your organization, then get rid of them. Ask them what's on their mind, what's their challenge. You notice that they're not being very nice to the people around them. What's on their mind? What's happening in their life that might be causing that? You can see from an empathetic perspective that you genuinely care. You're calling them out and you're saying, hey, you're not being a very nice person to people around you. What's going on in your life? Is there anything I can help with? They're going to be like, oh my God. Instead of walking up to them and saying, you're not being a nice person, I'm firing you, showing some empathy, you're going to get that person on board. So long answer to your question. Stan Wall loves a good elephant. Hey, Stan on YouTube. Hey, if everything's been helpful today, if this has been great, what's been your most favorite tip or trick or insight that I've given you in this presentation? Hit the comments there on LinkedIn or hit the comments there on YouTube. Let me know which tip or which insight I've given you in this particular presentation has been the most useful for you. Which one did you like? Which one did you madly write notes on? So for you guys here in the studio, I'll just quickly whip around. What have I said this morning that you can use? Kiana.
I think just the empathy. I think it's really important to just connect with people, especially on a business level, because it's validated on the outside of business, but it's very important on the inside.
Excellent. So Kiana's talking about empathy, saying that's the most important.
Well, obviously doing a good job, knowing what you're doing is important, but it's also actually wanting to work with the people you want to work, actually getting to know them. So it comes, I guess, back to the empathy, but it's actually wanting to do well for not only your boss, but for the colleagues around you.
For the team. That's right. Excellent. So that's like teamwork. It's like wanting to contribute to the team and wanting to do well for the team around you. If you identify someone, or if you are someone who's not wanting to contribute to the team around you, then it's time to leave. Life is short. Go and find a job doing something with a team that you love working with, or if you want to work by yourself, go work by yourself. That's a good point.
I really liked what you were saying about the solutions getting rejected. You said the solution lies in the mind of the problem.
Yep. Exactly right. So you're using questioning to actually throw that problem over into someone else's head, and that's my job here. My job is to make sure that all of the brains in this organization have the problems and the challenges that we've got. They all know the goals we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, I'm just taking it all on my shoulders. So I'm throwing it out there. How are we going to solve this problem? How do you want to solve the problem? How do you want to solve the problem? Excellent. That's a good one.
I liked what you said about the importance of framing. So how you should align your intentions with like a business's objectives.
Absolutely. 100%.
That kind of goes into empathy as well.
100%. So I'll set, it's a bit cliche because I'm hearing it lots on Instagram about, make sure you set your intentions. But in real terms, in a sales pitch, I've got a bunch of emails that I've sent this week, which is, it's my intention to bring you on as a customer. It's my intention to help solve your problems and challenges. It's my intention to help your organization to be a fun place to work. It's my intention to help your buyers have a great experience. And it's my intention to add value to your shareholders. So what I'm going to be doing is asking you a bunch of information to find out about your organization so I can show you that our products and services are actually going to help achieve those goals. Are you interested? So are you interested in hearing what I've got to say and helping me understand whether I can actually help you? Because if I can help you, I'm going to guarantee the result. So that's about setting intention, and then obviously internally influencing with the people that we're talking about on this particular presentation, going into the conversation and say, look, it's my intention to help you achieve your goals. It's my intention to help you do your job really well. And what my job is as a manager or someone around you is to motivate and train you. And that's what we're going to be focusing on. I'm going to be helping you to get to a point where your job is really easy to do. And jobs become really easy to do when people are well trained and they know what they're doing and they've had time to practice, they've had time to make mistakes. Good question. Okay, doesn't look like there's any more questions. Thank you very much, Stan Wall. Empathy, I absolutely agree with you 100%. If you are an aspiring leader or an aspiring manager or an aspiring internal influencer in your organization, 100% focus on empathy. Absolutely 100%. Learn what that is, work out what the word means, work out what that looks like in your organization and start talking about that. Without further ado, it sounds like the dog has just arrived at the studio. Scupper, the studio dog, has just turned up. And on that note, what we're going to do is finish off the live stream for the day. We will be here in 6 days' time, same day, same place for next week's live streams with more great content from the Best Practice TV studio. If you are enjoying what we're doing, there's the dog. If you're enjoying what you're doing, check us out on Instagram. We've got bestpractice.biz on Instagram. And also, the dog's also had a haircut, so he's having a great time. That's Scupper the dog. Check us out on Instagram. My handle, if you want to send me a direct message, you can direct message me on Instagram. You can direct message me on LinkedIn. You can comment below this video on YouTube. If you have enjoyed this live stream, let me know. Can you guys just scroll down on LinkedIn for me? There's another comment. I'm seeing it blinking. So if you can go right ahead and yes, thank you, Jody. Yes, the dog has just turned up. So if you have enjoyed this presentation, please share it with your colleagues. If you're on LinkedIn and there's somebody in your organization that you would like to open the discussion about what I've talked about in this presentation, you can go across to LinkedIn and you can go across to YouTube and you can copy the link to the video and you can share it. You can copy out that link, you can paste it into an email, and it's a great way to open conversations in your organization. I'd love you to use this video. It would mean a lot to me if you shared it in your organization to help your organization be better at influencing each other, work more closely as a team to achieve those amazing goals, particularly during this COVID pandemic. I want to be part of that journey to help your organization really grow and be a great place to work at, a great place that has great customer experience for your customers so you get more word of mouth referrals, and a great place for your investors into the future through the end of 2020 and into 2021. Okay, if you don't see me out and about over the next couple of days, you will definitely see me right here next time on Best Practice TV. Big thanks to everybody here in the studio. Thank you to the dog. Thank you to my team at Best Practice. I appreciate that. I'll see you next time right here on Best Practice TV. Bye for now.